Steven is a creator of luxury. My family is a traditional family from New York, and I don't think that my family ever thought that I would go into design. I think that they would have perhaps preferred in the beginning that I did something more into like finance or banking or even sales, which design is a lot of sales. Actually, in the beginning, my dad, who's kind of a little bit more rough and tumble, was so happy and so proud. And I think that my mom wasn't 100% on board. Even when I was in magazines, you know, my dad was like dishing the magazines out to people. And my mom was like, oh, wow, that's so nice you're in a magazine. I grew up in Long Island. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. And then I grew up in Long Island. After Long Island, I went to Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan, and I was in a relationship with somebody who had a drapery workroom, and that's how I got involved in design. And he wanted to relocate the drapery workroom to Florida because we used to come down on vacation a lot. I was artistic, where I think my most artistic moments came from was I worked at Bloomingdale's 59th Street, and I was a perfume sprayer for many, many, many years. And through that, you got to be very creative. You got to work with display. You get to work with their display department for the fragrance companies, and you learn more about packaging through going to corporate events. So that I liked very much. While I was in college, I sprayed perfume. So I was spraying it forever. I never wanted to leave. I could still be there if it was up to me. And my family was like, get out. My first job was, I graduated from school and I got a job with Aetna, okay? And it was in the World Trade Center. And I got lost. And I didn't find the office where I was supposed to be. And I showed up and I'm like, hi, I'm here. And they're like, really? So when I finished work that day, I actually spoke to the man and he said, no, this isn't right for you. You're so much more of a creative person and I don't see this, the field that you should be going in. And I was heartbroken. When I got comfortable with design was my partner at the time owned a drapery workroom. And I used to love going to the workroom. I found it fascinating. I love fashion. I think I'm inspired by fashion. And the making of the drapery, especially in a traditional home, is fashion. So I used to watch him and then I would think, he's not very good at putting the whole package together, the drapes, the trim, the designs, and presenting them to the client. So I used to go to the clients' houses with him. And slowly over time, well, it actually all happened within 6 months, so not slowly over time, it happened fast. The clients would say, oh, you're very, very good at this. Can you start looking at redoing our dining room? So through there, I started going more and more into design. With that, we brought the drapery workroom down to Miami because you have to keep in mind, you move to a new location and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna meet clients? So, ready? This is crazy. I was getting stomach cramps. And I went to a doctor in Manhattan and he said to me, I have someone that can help you when you move to Florida that's very well connected in design. So he said, this guy, he works in a showroom. So I thought to myself, like, how could someone get me design projects that work in a showroom? I didn't understand. So this was the day, long before you had websites. This is in 1995, and I brought my portfolio to him and I'm like going through it with him and he was like really fast. He like closed it, so I felt like I was back in advertising, you know, like boom, thank you. And within maybe 2 weeks he introduced me to a couple from Fort Lauderdale on Idlewild, and I got my first McMansion there. So I was really excited about that, and it was crazy sick. It was $1 million interior. So but the best part is when I met the couple, the wife is like absolutely beautiful. And when I saw the house being built, because I got there basically just while construction started, I looked at her and I said, she must be a supermodel, and that's where the money comes from. But he was actually a very good businessman, and she liked to just spend his money. I don't think people understand that in design. It's like you have emails, you have phone calls, you have texts, except the emergencies are quite different. Like, oh my gosh, the stitching on my pillow isn't what I expected. The drape man doesn't show up. The stone arrived damaged. The floor monument was placed in the wrong place. It didn't go where we indicated it on the floor plan. There's always something that happens that I wish I got to spend as much time creating as you do troubleshooting. A small firm is able to give much more personalized attention. And there's myself, someone who assists me, and my AutoCAD person. I depend tremendously on my AutoCAD person. First misconception of an interior designer is that we pick paint colors and fabrics. So that is, I think, the biggest misconception. The other misconception is people are like, oh my God, you must be so expensive. And when they look at my portfolio, they'll say, oh my gosh, you must be so expensive. The fact remains that when you bring an interior designer onto a project, very early on in particular, they're paying attention to you. The architect is paying attention to you. The builder is paying attention to you. I'm working with you on your art, the laying out of your furniture, the fabric. So I know where, let's say for an example, a floor monument needs to be so that we can have a lamp on the table. We know if the client is bringing in art, where to place that. We know perhaps more the lifestyle of the client, and where, let's just say, a general contractor might try to put together a budget for them where it's okay, we're going to give you a shower head, and then I'll be like, okay, we're going to get a shower head, talk to them. They might need a rain head. They perhaps want a handheld. They might want another handheld near the bench. All of this is so important because if it's not done in the beginning, changes cost money. Also, one other thing, I have really great relationships with vendors. So I negotiate really well. And by negotiating, even if besides the net pricing, even if I can negotiate an extra 10, 15%, I'm basically covering myself. My tip for all interior designers, believe it or not, to wear nice socks. And I'm going to explain why. Very often you walk into a house, and if the house is where everything is being installed, if you're not wearing booties or something, you take off your shoes. And I notice, like, I'll look around at like all the people's feet, and I'll see like, my God, like your pinky toe sticking out of your sock, or oof, put your sock on even though it has holes because your feet aren't that nice. So it's really, really important because trust me, the client looks down and they want somebody who's very well put together guiding them, because you're actually suggesting their style. I think that some designers can be unapproachable because they're pushy. You can't push your ideas on someone. You have to communicate well and listen. And some designers, they'll learn along the way, hopefully, to listen to their client. If not, you can't go in there and be like, no, we're doing this. I asked them to provide me with like a lookbook. So if you can provide me with images that you like, because I am a firm believer, even when the client says, I need you so badly because I'm not creative, you would be surprised on how creative they are. Or they may not know what they like, but they know what they don't like. And what I think is great is to have wonderful resources and to know the market, because quite often I'll show something to a client that they never knew existed, and they're like, yes, I do want that. So that's how I think the relationship evolves.